Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. We have a Tier 8 ranked battle for you today. Northern Waters map, domination mode. Each team has 2 destroyers, 1 extremely nervous cruiser, and 3 battleships. Lord Vaco here in one of the team's 2 destroyers, the Orkan. We'll talk a bit more about the Orkan in a moment. First though, I just want to talk about the 2 team lineups, because Vaco's team... Let's just say that there are certain players on his team who are taking some very, very brave choices with the ships that they're taking into ranked battle. For a start, the other destroyer there is an Asashio. And the Asashio is a great destroyer, but of the 6 ships on the enemy team, it can only torpedo 3 of them, the battleships. It's armed with deep water torpedoes that will pass harmlessly underneath the keel of destroyers or cruisers, and it's useless in a gunfight. Well, not 100% useless. If it can get the first salvo off, the high explosive shells do hit kind of hard, assuming that the guns are actually pointing in the direction of the target, because they take about a week to complete a 180-degree rotation and they take 2 weeks to reload. So, yeah. Also, the cruiser on the team, the San Diego. Now, the San Diego is a very good cruiser, but it's the only cruiser at this tier in the American lineup that doesn't come with radar. Speaking of American ships in the lineup, while the Lenin and the Yumahari, which are not American ships, are perfectly fine Tier 8 battleships, the USS Kansas might be the worst ship in the game. Huge fat target, slow, lots and lots and lots of guns that take 40 seconds to reload, none of which could hit the broadside of a barn from the inside. So while it's fair to say that in World of Warships you don't get to meet up with the team in a gaming lobby before the battle and coordinate what ships you're all going to pick, you can make intelligent choices, which it looks like the enemy team have done, certainly as far as their battleships are concerned. All 3 of the battleships, certainly the 2 Massachusetts, possibly also the Key, are secondary spec'd, which is not great news for Lord Vaco here and the Asashio on his team. And yes, the Key could be secondary spec'd. Probably not, but might be. Not a lot of people realise that the Key, the Tier 8 battleship, actually has the same high explosive penetration buff on its 100mm secondaries that the Akazuki, the Kitakazi and the Hirugamo have on their 100mm primaries. Just about the only bad thing on the enemy team's composition is that they also don't have a radar. Except, while it's true to say that the San Diego on Lord Vaco's team does not have a radar, that does not mean that his team are radar free, because the Orkan gets one. Oh, he's just been spotted. You can't see who's spotting him. Fire up the radar. There it is. There's the enemy lightning. So, he gets the first salvo off. A couple of hits, nothing impressive. HMS Lightning over there immediately demonstrates that he is capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, because instead of returning fire, or smoking up, he's instead kiting away, trying to troll Lord Vaco here into continuing to shoot at him in order that he remains detected, so the 2 secondary spec Massachusetts coming around the corner can finish him off for him. Lord Vaco is not taking the bait, despite some actual armed provocation at the last second there from the Lightning. He is, however, dumping torpedoes against those 2 Massachusetts, and the Key as well, which remember could also be secondary spec. Meanwhile, as he's kiting away from the cap here at Alpha, Lord Vaco has just reached an important conclusion and is relaying this information to his team. Oh, notice those torpedoes that got spotted not by 1 but 2 Massachusetts. Look at the Key in the background. Yeah, he just ate. Oh no, don't ask. Anyway, aware that he has at least 4 enemy ships on this side of the map, and this is ranked, so there are only 6 ships per side in the first place, Vaco lets his team know that at best, the enemy team only have 2 ships covering the cap circle at Charlie, and they should push it hard. His team acknowledged the information in chat. Some nice torpedoes there in support from the Asashio, and while Lord Vaco can't do anything about the Lightning flipping the cap there at Alpha, that pesky Lightning once again proving that he's capable of thinking and breathing at the same time by using the threat of the secondaries of those 2 Massachusetts over there to keep Vaco at arm's length, outside of spotting and also outside of radar range, while the Lightning exercises some restraint, keeps his own finger off the trigger in order to remain undetected and take that cap circle at Alpha. All the while Vaco is playing with fire here, but it is kind of necessary because those are 2 secondary spec battleships. He's got at least half of the enemy team over here. The Lightning is bugging out, he's just picked him up. Well, Vaco didn't pick him up. He was outspotted by the Asashio, who's lurking around, trying to torpedo those battleships. through that gap in between the two islands. That's actually quite lucky for the Asashio. Because the enemy team have no radar, the Asashio has by far the best stealth of any ship in this battle. So even though he can only really damage 3 of the 6 enemy ships, he outspots all of them. So I don't know whether it was through blind luck or good judgment, but the Asashio has put himself into the perfect position to intercept that lightning as he tries to make a dash across the map to the only cap circle that Lord Vaco's team possess, up at Bravo. Unfortunately, spotting the lightning and being able to kill him are 2 entirely different things, because the Asashio's guns are terrible and it can't torpedo destroyers. So the Asashio was forced to smoke up and disengage, or get torpedoed in its own smokescreen, and while I'm sure the lightning got a nasty surprise when he got himself spotted breaking out between those islands over there, once he realised he'd gotten himself spotted by an Asashio and there was nobody else around to actually shoot at him, well, why not run down and shoot up an Asashio? Which is exactly what he's doing as the Asashio is begging the team for help. He's actually managed to sink the key now, further torpedo hit, so good stuff, but I don't think the Asashio is going to live for much longer. Meanwhile, for the last couple of minutes, Lord Vaco here has been desperately trying to monopolise the attention of those 2 enemy battleships, and it's at least succeeding as far as the Massachusetts over there is concerned. However, despite acknowledging the information that he relayed to them right at the start of the battle, the fact that at least 4 of the enemy team were all the way over here, the rest of his team haven't exactly dispersed themselves in the best possible way to take advantage of the fact that the enemy cap at Charlie is almost completely undefended. And yep, the lightning has in fact sunk the Asashio, because of course he has. Although, a spot of good news, the San Diego, who has headed down to contest the cap circle at Charlie, has sunk the Charles Martel heavy cruiser who is defending it. And it looks like he's also chased the Harikaze out of there, despite not having radar, and is now flipping that cap at Charlie. However, with that lightning taking out the Asashio, you can guarantee that the lightning, because there's no longer anything there to stop him, is now heading up to the cap circle at Bravo, which is the one cap circle that Lord Vaco's team have actually held on to for the entirety of this game, as Lord Vaco continues to try to occupy the attention of everything he possibly can over here in order to give his team the best possible fighting chance to take advantage of the numbers advantage that they hold over the enemy team elsewhere on the map. Looking at the map, it looks as if the captain of the USS Kansas is getting a bit concerned about exactly what the intentions of that enemy lightning are, because he could be heading for the cap circle at Bravo, although you'd imagine he would have gotten there by now, but he could also be going for the Kansas, and there's no reason why he couldn't be doing both. So the Kansas is tucking himself in behind an island. He was, bless him, trying to head down south to assist with the cap circle at Charlie, but is in a Kansas. At full speed, he might get there sometime next month. Further to the south, the San Diego and the Yamahari are flipping the cap at Charlie, although the San Diego is almost certainly wishing he'd picked something with radar by now, and, oh, I was going to say dodging torpedoes from the Harikaze, and that looks like it's exactly what's happened. The San Diego just popped his hydro, undoubtedly just spotted Harikaze torpedoes, and also picked up the Harikaze inside hydro range. Unforgivable error of judgment there from the Harikaze. Absolutely no way he should have allowed that to happen. You can guarantee that right now, that San Diego is unloading on him with absolutely everything that he has, trying to nail him before he manages to slip away undetected. Something that Lord Vaco here has been doing to that Massachusetts for the best part of the last 10 minutes. I think we can all agree that he has successfully managed to tie up the attention of the Massachusetts over there for most of this match. He just hasn't managed to do an awful lot of damage to it. That's 112 hits so far. Not all of them on the Massachusetts, but he hasn't managed to set a single fire. What the hell's going on? Okay, the Lenin's finished him off. There's the other Massachusetts. Oh, and I quickly just want to point out, in case you missed it in chat, while they were flipping the cap at Charlie, desperately dodging Harikaze torpedoes, and right before the San Diego actually managed to hydro the Harikaze, the Yamahari who was with him was begging the San Diego to use his radar. San Diego doesn't have radar. Although it's only fair for people to expect American cruisers of that sort of tier to have the radar consumable, because almost all of them do. Yeah, the San Diego does not. Meanwhile, finally, and I was wondering what was going on at the cap circle at Bravo, looks like the lightning, it was possibly trying to torpedo the Kansas, because if he'd headed straight for the cap circle at Bravo, he would have probably flipped it a minute ago, is now flipping the cap circle at Bravo. It's possible, although I can't tell for sure because I can't see the Kansas's hellfire, that he was trying to stalk the Kansas, but instead has wisely decided, since they are behind 2 kills and only have 3 ships left, it might in fact be a good idea to take that cap, which he has now just done. And it couldn't have come at a worse time, because the surviving enemy Massachusetts has just sunk the friendly Lenin. So now, despite being on the back foot for most of the game, at least as far as the kills are concerned, the enemy team are about to start pulling ahead on points. They've managed to maintain rough score parity due to holding 2 of the 3 cap circles for most of the game. They're now only 1 kill behind, and they once again have 2 of the caps. That USS Kansas is probably sweating bullets right now, because if the Lightning hadn't torpedoed him on the way to the cap circle at Bravo, you can guarantee he's going to be trying to torpedo him on the way down south to the cap circle at Charlie, which is the only remaining cap circle that Lord Vaco's team hold. And he almost certainly knows that he doesn't have to worry about anybody's radar. Now, the San Diego and Lord Vaco himself, of course, are in good positions to flip the cap circle here at Alpha, although the San Diego is probably not interested in getting spotted and shot at by the Massachusetts, because while it is known for having amazing secondaries, let's not forget, it does also have 9 16-inch guns. They're probably going to sink the Massachusetts, and I think the Massachusetts knows this, because the Kansas has an island between himself, hopefully, and any incoming lightning torpedoes, and yep, those are going to be, yep, that's Kansas armor piercing going in. How can you tell? Lots of shots, very little damage. The USS San Diego down to the south, who's just rounded the corner of the island and is about to join Lord Vaco here in the cap circle at Alpha, is probably waiting for the Massachusetts to fire and commit itself before unloading with its massed ranks of 127mm 5-inch guns. And yet the Massachusetts has done just that, and no sign of any fire from the San Diego, unless he just wants to flip the cap, or ensure that the cap gets flipped before he unloads on the Massachusetts. There it is, there's the semi-armor piercing. Yeah, the Massachusetts is a dead man. The cap has been flipped. Vaco's team can finally move ahead of 666 points, where their score has been stalled for the last couple of minutes. Now they'll get another points boost by finishing off the Massachusetts. I think even the Yumihari is now unloading on this poor guy. It's amazing that he survived as long as he has. I have to say the Massachusetts has done a good job. Well, he's basically been doing exactly what Lord Vaco's been doing the entire game, tying up the attention of the majority of the enemy team. And he has been doing a really, really good job of it. That Massachusetts now has the undivided attention of every single remaining ship on Lord Vaco's team, including Lord Vaco himself. But they're going to have to start worrying about those 2 destroyers, the Harakazi and the Lightning. Because while the destruction of the Massachusetts means the enemy team are no longer on 820 points and mere minutes away from winning, they do have 2 cap circles, and they're going to be back up to 820 points real fast. Actually, they're going to be up there a lot faster than I might have first anticipated, because the Harakazi has just torpedoed and sunk the Yumihari, who, it has to be said, was thinking on his feet, not only shooting at and helping to sink the Massachusetts, but also steaming north as fast as he could, and the Yumihari's a battle cruiser. It's pretty fast, in order to try to flip the cap circle at Bravo, but the Harakazi saw what he was doing and he nipped that idea in the bud, which means that with the enemy team not far short of 900 points, and Lord Vaco's team now only enjoying a single kill advantage while still being behind 1 cap circle, despite the Yumihari's attempt to rectify that, they're probably not much more than a minute away from losing. I realise there are still 6.5 minutes of this battle left, but the enemy team are on 896 points, and they're gaining 2 points every second. Which means that in order to not lose, Lord Vaco's team need to either find and kill both the Harakazi and the Lightning, good luck with that because they're destroyers, or at least contest the cap circles at Bravo and Charlie in order to stall out the timer and give them time to either flip those caps or find and sink those 2 enemy destroyers. So the plan, and they have less than a minute to make it happen, is for the San Diego to head for the cap circle up to the north at Bravo, and for Lord Vaco to head to the cap circle to the south at Charlie. Doesn't really matter what the Kansas does, because it's not fast enough to make a difference anyway. But whatever they do, they're going to have to do it in the next 30 seconds, because the enemy team are at 964 points. And then this pops up. which means that one of those two enemy destroyers with the radio location skill just had the indicator suddenly swing to point in Lord Vaco's direction instead of the Kansas. Or in other words, a big on-screen indicator that something else is closing in from this direction. Vaco gets spotted, which means there's an enemy destroyer within 5.9 kilometers, fires up the radar. Oh, hello! Are you guys on 998 points? Were you 2 points away from winning? Arakazi, why are you trying to smoke up? You know what radar means, right? Oh, you idiots. Yeah. 2 points away from winning, and they screwed it up at the literal last possible second. There's the Combat Scout Award, at least, for Lord Vaco. Surprisingly, no double strike. I went back and checked. He was 4 seconds too slow killing the Harakazi to get the double strike award. But I'm sure he's not that bothered. He's probably just amazed that he actually managed to win. I suspect the Harakazi and the Lightning are also amazed that he actually managed to win. Two players who basically never put a foot wrong the entire game, with the exception of the Harakazi getting himself hydroed earlier on by the San Diego. But other than that, I mean, both at or around 1,000 base experience on a defeat. They basically played a faultless game right up until the point where they kind of didn't. As a result, Lord Vaco was able to seal the win in the Orkan. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.